Hello, this is Samantha Shares. This episode covers NCUA's examiner guidance on preliminary warning letters to credit unions per the National Supervision Policy Manual. The following is an audio version of that guidance. This podcast is educational and is not legal advice. We are sponsored by Credit Union Exam Solutions Incorporated, whose team has over 240 years of national credit union administration experience. We assist our clients with NCUA so they save time and money. If you are worried about a recent, upcoming, or in-process NCUA examination, reach out to learn how they can assist at marktrickle.com. Also check out our other podcast called With Flying Colors, where we provide tips on how to achieve success with NCUA. And now the guidance. Preliminary warning letter per National Supervision Policy Manual. Examiners will draft a PWL when a credit union's problems are serious or persistent and a credit union's board is unwilling to sign NCUA. A PWL will support formal administrative action such as a published NCUA or cease and desist order. A PWL is a warning of potential formal administrative action if corrective action is not taken. If formal administrative action is taken, then the PWL is automatically removed and all action items in it will be incorporated into the formal administrative action. There may be rare instances where both a PWL and a formal administrative action are necessary to address separate supervisory concerns. Examiners will only recommend that their supervisor issue a PWL as a result of a regular examination, follow-up examination, or supervision contact. Sample PWLs and a BSA-specific PWL are provided as resources for this section of the NSPM. A PWL is written from the perspective of the RD and includes direct, concise, and clear language, a list of the serious areas of concern and citation of the Federal Credit Union Act or regulation violated. When the primary problem area is poor management, include the following text. Your credit union is operating in an unsafe and unsound manner for which substantial, immediate, and corrective action must be taken. It is the Board of Directors' responsibility, as the body providing general direction and control for the credit union, to take necessary corrective actions. A statement of impending administrative action by the NCUA. Required actions and timeframes for resolving the areas of concern. DOS responsibilities. Review PWLs for appropriateness and process for RD approval. Discuss all material changes with the supervisor. Exam staff responsibilities. Obtain supervisor and RD concurrence for a PWL before preparing a letter. Email draft PWL to the supervisor for review when initiating the PSR1. Process. The supervisor will review the report to ensure the PWL is appropriate and supported, and then forward it to their region's DOS2 mailbox when notifying DOS the PSR is ready for DOS review. Last updated October 14, 2021. Deliver a preliminary warning letter. The supervisor will determine whether to hand deliver or mail a PWL based on the severity of the issues. For hand-delivered PWLs, the supervisor will notify DOS 3 of the planned meeting date, so the letter is dated accordingly approximately 2 to 3 weeks from the date exam staff 4 submits the draft letter to DOS. Once the letter is approved and signed by the RD, DOS will mail one original copy of the letter directly to the supervisor for hand delivery and provide scanned copies to the examiner and supervisor for record keeping. The examiner and the supervisor will deliver the PWL on-site to discuss the contents of the letter, usually at a formal meeting with the credit union's board of directors. Following the meeting, the examiner will distribute the original, signed copy of the PWL to the credit union officials. The examiner and supervisor maintain scanned copies of the signed PWL for mailed PWLs. DOS will send the letter to the board chairperson and copy the CO5 as appropriate. In special cases, DOS may send the PWL to each board member. DOS will provide scanned copies to the examiner and supervisor for their records. The examiner and supervisor will maintain scanned copies of the signed PWL. Supervision contacts for a credit union with a PWL. As described in the Lewis section of the NSPM, the frequency of examinations, follow-up examinations, and on-site supervision contacts is driven by a credit union's CAMELS 1 ratings and overall risk to the NCUSF 2. Examiners will consider any outstanding administrative action when planning supervision and assigning the CAMEL's ratings. If an examiner encounters a credit union with an outstanding administrative action and associated risk, and the risk is not reflected in the CAMEL's rating which drives the frequency of supervision, they will discuss with their supervisor and plan their supervision accordingly. Unless there are extenuating circumstances, and approved by the ARD, supervision of credit unions with outstanding administrative actions will be in line with national policy for CAMEL's 3, 4, and 5 credit unions perform a follow-up examination at least every 120 or 180 days from completion date to start date. Examiners will prepare and distribute the examination or supervision contact reports in the same manner as other examinations and supervision contacts. Document compliance with the PWL in the status update during each contact. The status of each item will be listed as resolved or unresolved. Examiners will include comments to support completion status. Document recommendations for future actions such as continue, modify, terminate the PWL, or proceed with elevated or formal administrative action. Examiners will refrain from recommending a PWL be reissued, rewritten, or allowed to remain outstanding for long periods, usually no longer than 12 months. Recommend removal of the PWL when it is confirmed during a follow-up examination or regular examination the officials have corrected the problem areas and prepare a draft letter for the RD's signature explaining the recommendation. Recommend escalated administrative action if a credit union has not corrected the problem areas within the timeframes outlined in the PWL. Escalated administrative action may include a published LUA, cease and desist order, civil money penalty, involuntary liquidation, or others. Refer to NCUA Instruction 4820, Enforcement Manual, for processing procedures for civil money penalties, involuntary liquidations, conservatorships, etc. Terminating a preliminary warning letter. When a credit union meets the specific performance standards outlined in a PWL, examiners will recommend termination of the PWL. Examiners will recommend the termination of a PWL only after they complete an examination or contact supported by adequate work papers showing the credit union has corrected the problems cited in the PWL. When conditions warrant the termination of a PWL, the examiner will prepare a draft PWL removal letter to the credit union, explaining why the RD is removing the PWL. The examiner will forward the draft letter to the supervisor with an explanation in the email supporting their recommendation to terminate the PWL. After review, the supervisor will forward the draft letter to DOS1 mail for review and processing for RD signature. This concludes the NCUA's examiner guidance on preliminary warning letters to credit unions per the National Supervision Policy Manual. If your credit union could use assistance with your exam, reach out to Mark Treichel on LinkedIn or at marktreichel.com. This is Samantha Shares, and we thank you for listening.